நண்பர் செல்வா ஒரு அருமையான கேள்வி கேட்டார் என்ன இப்போ காஃபி சாப்பிடும்போது. He was asking me a very uh, valid question. He says, based on his own personal life growth, uh, is it necessary to go through yoga? Is it necessary to go through meditation? Uh, so far as I am concerned, I read, I read good literature. I'm molded by good literature, and I grow on that basis. And basically, I feel that I'm on the right track with respect to all that you are saying. Nothing more seems to be necessary for me. That's what he said. Is it necessary to go? I'll put it this way: is it necessary to go through those things? And the second point he made was, I have seen people who have been doing yoga and who have been doing meditation and who have not given up their anger, pride, hatred, jealousy, etc., even after 10 years, 15 years, 20 years, etc., and so on. So where are we? So that is that. If I remember right, a few years ago, when I had Hamsa's retreat in Ooty, I don't know whether Krishnan attended, one of the leading IT company chairman who attended the retreat, Krishnan, you may know, Maitri illa, the other one, Sriram's company, old company. He sat with us for 3 days, and he came probably because it happened to be in Ooty, you see. He said, at the end of it, he said, I am happy with my family, with my company. I am making a lot of profits. And my children are fine. And they are very intelligent. So they are doing well. So, well, you invited me, and so I am here. And I'm happy that I've known something. But I don't know whether things like meditation, yoga are necessary. You see, this is a point of view that this is not necessary. So you can begin from there. Many of us think that it is not necessary for us. Number two, many of us think that it is necessary for us, but we don't find the time. Number three, many of us think it is necessary, try to find some time, but not adequate time. And therefore they feel listless and unhappy at the end of it. And number four, this is the most common thing. Quite a few people say that they've done meditation for a number of years, and they come to me and then say that they are still agitated, they can still get restless on small events, on small occasions, on small problems. So how do we handle, or how do we manage, or how do we understand these things is what they oftentimes ask me. Now, before I answer all those things, I just want to give you a very brief outline of what these 3 or 4 things mean. You all know yoga, you all know meditation. Mindfulness is a slightly different concept. It's an expression used in the Buddhist terminology, and Lord Buddha, in fact, used this word mindfulness. In his long discourses, he was quite fond of using the word mindful. You always say, be mindful. At his last moment, when he was passing into samadhi, he calls Ananda and all the disciples, and then tell them, I am passing, be mindful of the doctrines. So that's what he says. And he passes away. And so mindfulness is an exclusively special terminology used by the Lord Buddha in the whole course of his career. Right? We'll come to that because separately. Now we start with meditation. As Krishnan rightly pointed out, all these issues in life, in profession, in our career, etc., do cause us some kind of an agitation sometime or the other. We are emotionally upset. Too many thoughts come into our mind. We do not know how to handle them. We do not know how to prioritize them. And we may have some time pressures. We may have family pressures. We may have work pressures. We may have emotional pressures. All these things combined together give us a certain degree of restlessness and mental agitation, because ultimately it is in the mind that these begin to operate. Now, you see, a restless mind, an agitated mind, if allowed to go on like that, without any degree of understanding and pacification, can, in the first place, physically affect your body. Affect your body, producing some kind of a ill health. This is called psychosomatic phenomenon. Psychosomatic phenomenon is the pressures of the mind or the stresses of the mind endured for a long term or accepted and adapted on a long term, and you think you got over it, but they continue to be there, racking your brain. They affect your body. They affect your body through your parasympathetic and sympathetic nerve system. They are responsible for a whole host of diseases, very vital diseases, life-threatening diseases. They were basically, I'm not in the question of spirituality at all, basically, even to maintain good health, you need to maintain a calm and a quiet mind. And a calm and quiet mind becomes an important accessory to good health. Therefore, we need to have a calm mind. Meditation helps you to have a calm mind. Now, whether it is that chairman of that company, or whether it is Selva, or whether it is anybody else, now, whosoever it is, if not now, sometime later, sometime sooner than later, we'll always find the need to keep his mind calm. Keeping the mind calm is a very, very important job. But keeping the mind calm does not come overnight. Keeping the mind calm comes over a long practice, a systematic practice, a systematic approach. It is that which helps you to keep the mind calm, and in turn brings in health to your body, mental body, as well as to your physical body. Getting mental body in a state of health, in a state of calmness, in a state free from agitation, helps you, it's a double bonanza. It helps you also to see things clearly. See things clearly, see things in a balanced manner, see things in such a way that your perception is not colored by emotions and so on. You can, in fact, take better decisions, better judgments on the basis of a calm and a clear mind. More important, quite a lot of our creativity gets stifled when your mind is disturbed and when your mind is agitated. A free and a calm mind helps you to release the tremendous energies of your inner creativity, particularly of the right side of the brain. Now, you will see suddenly you are exploding with ideas, you are exploding with thoughts, you are exploding with music, you are exploding with new ways of finding out something or the other, and so you are in a position, therefore, to be able to say new things and understand things in a newer perspective. So that, from all these points of view, meditation has a tremendously useful instrument for anybody to follow, leave alone people like you who are working in pressured atmospheres. In fact, I think you need it much more than many of us do. And so you will have to understand what it is all about. Now, meditation is talked of very widely, and different things are said under the heading meditation, and different practices are also recommended to you, and so you are confused. The different teacher has his own system of meditation, and therefore he tells you to do this, he tells you to do that, etc. And once you go to a particular teacher and takes to a particular meditation practice, please stick to him and don't change it. And if you go and change it and go to another person and he gives you a different methodology, and you get confused. You begin to evaluate both, and you begin to think which is superior or which is inferior, and things like that. Nothing is in fact inferior, nothing is superior. So far as meditative practice is concerned, everything is the same, because everything is attacking the mind. I think, therefore, start with the simplest of the processes. Simplest of the processes is the best way of reaching the inner mind. Mind you, it is not merely to keep your mind calm and free from agitation over a period of time that meditation becomes important. Meditation over a period of time becomes important to help you to unleash your spiritual powers, to help you to understand yourself, to help you to see who you are, to in fact help you to put your powers to deeper and more religious uses, which is what the mystical yogis and the sages did. That's at a much, much later date, not now.